Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Contrarians. It's that time of year when enthusiasts of all varieties put together their top lists of whatever happened that year for their particular enthusiasm. So, of course, the Contrarians, we're going to do our top albums of 2025. We've got a nice diverse panel this afternoon, and I hope that we're going to get some variety in the picks, possibly leaning a little towards the heavy metal, but that's just the crowd that we're in. So let's kick it off today with Alex. Alex, give us your first three.
Okay, so uh, when I approach this list, uh, number one was always number one from the moment I heard it. Number two is going to be the most played, and then three through five kind of flip flopped. And what I decided to do was stay away from more mainstream artists and give some love to some lesser known bands because three through 15 this year were fairly interchangeable to me. Um, so sticking with the theme of new bands or bands that maybe you've never heard of. Number five is going to be Frog Lord. That's also on my shirt. Metamorphosis. So you say, who is Frog Lord? Well, first of all, this came out in May. It's 8 songs. It's 37 minutes. It's also their fifth album. So this is not a brand new band. They are from the UK, Bristol based, formed in 2020. And I wrote down how they describe their music because I wanted to get it right. They say a blend of sludgy grooves and psychedelic doom, face melting fuzz, and feet stomping riffs. So if that piques your interest, this is the album for you. Um, and they take this whole frog theme seriously. All of their lyrics are amphibious in nature
Huh.
and very much like Coheed and Cambria. So it's a continuing story too, where Coheed is a sci-fi epic. This is all about Herman the man who wants to become the toad spirit guide of the Frog Lord. So again, hopefully I have everyone's interest, right? This is intriguing. I will say this is much like War and Ghost, where the theme is also conveyed in the music and the lyrics, and it's not so much like Slipknot with just mass. There's sort of a message to their madness, so to speak. So to listen to this, you would not, if you're not really paying attention to lyrics, you just hear a good, heavy, sludgy, doomy record. If you want to dive deep, then you get into the lyrics and you understand the story that they're telling. It's a great mix of classic Sabbath. I hear some Electric Wizard. I hear some Uncle Acid. There's some harsh vocals. There's some clean vocals. The harsh vocals are not obnoxious. I'm not a death metal guy, so they're more for emphasis. And then the other vocals come in and really give a nice blend. They mix in sound clips. They mix in swamp noises, obviously, sound bites, all kind of different things to really give this an eclectic but doomy heavy feel. So first track, Collision, starts off with a real fuzzed out opener, great track. Two is a real crushing heaviness to that song. That's Follow the Star. Then three, we get more into the story, and this is Herman. And this has some harmonica. It's got a groove to it. I say this is CCR mixed with sleep. How's that for a combination, right? So just a very interesting band. I will say they're, again, not as a stick kind of thing. This is an environmental based band that gives back. So they do charity work for environmental organizations, including Save the Frogs. So I think a very interesting band. I would definitely check them out. And I trying to hold back from a pun, but I'm not going to. I'm going to say this music is riveting. You can add your groans in there if you want. So
That's
so that was number
minus 10
five.
points right there.
Yeah.
It sounds
Okay.
like these guys really walk the walk. You know, they don't
Yeah.
just.
Yeah. In fact, I dropped that. There's a picture of them in all their glory.
Frog
So
worship. All right.
it's a little tongue in cheek, but not parody. It's just this is their theme. This is so. Okay. So then number four, one of my favorite bands of the 2000s, and that is Witchcraft. And this is IDAG is the album. This is a deluxe edition. So if you're looking for this, the album cover art on most is different. So if you're searching, just be mindful of that. So IDAG is Swedish for today. This came out in May. Heavy Psych Sounds release, 10 songs, 40 minutes. It's their seventh album. This is Swedish doom. They formed in 2000, and since then, I think they've hit the mark every single time, with one exception, which I'll get into. The main constant in the band is Magnus P. Lander, the vocalist and mastermind behind this. To me, it's kind of the best parts of the classic Ozzy era of doom and metal, throwing some early Pentagram as well. But it's doom done right. It's I think they just have such an incredible sound. The songs are well structured. Lander has a voice that can go from a whisper to real power, and it's clean and it's sharp and it fits the music perfectly. I love his tone. I love his phrasing. I think he's just fantastic. What's interesting about this is the first half is all in Swedish and the second half is in English. And they've mixed it up a little bit before, but never to this extent. And to me, I never have a problem with lyrics in another language, as long as the music is engaging, and I find this to be very engaging. But I'm going to focus on the second half, the English half. So track 6 is very classic Black Sabbath sounding, and that is Burning Cross. The next song is also Sabbath, but it's kind of got that jazzy swing to it. After that, we go into Christmas, which absolutely 100% Iommi riffs throughout that. And then we have a slight return. We go back to the Swedish. But this is really a great mix of the music that they've done over their career. I will say there's no 10-minute plus epic, which is something they're known for. On several albums, they've had multiples of this. 2 albums ago was Nucleus, which I think is their masterpiece. After that, they put out an album called Black Metal, which sounds like it's going to be the heaviest thing. It's a straight up folk record. It was not well received. I enjoy it because, again, I like his voice, but this is getting back to their form. So I highly recommend anything by them, but this is a great return to form for them. I just saw they have a new EP coming out, so they're not going to take so long between records this time. So anyway, that's number 2 is Witchcraft Idag. And then sticking with doom, number 3, Mesa. And again, they did 2 albums, 2 album covers, one white, one black, but Mesa. So now we're switching gears though into doom that's unlike anything else I think that's out there at the moment. So this came out in April. It's on Metal Blade Records, their first release. It's 7 songs. It's 41 minutes. It's their 4th album. They are from Italy. They formed in 2014. And if anybody's into sub genres of music, they call themselves Scarlet Doom. I don't really know what that means, but I will say it describes their music if they say so, because it's unlike anything. And the vocalist, female vocalist named Sarah, is incredible. I call her a doom chanteuse. She really has range, and think of classic Black Sabbath if fronted by a torch singer. Okay, so that gives you the vibe. Very different. As far as styles, I wrote down Psych, Darkwave, Shoegaze. There's some Susie Sue and Cure, especially in some of the guitar work as far as the Cure goes. There's some prog. You cannot pin this band down. I love doom. I love female-fronted doom. Bands like Windhand and Aluna. They can be a little bit, I don't say one note, but you listen to it and you hear doom, and that's that. Someone that does not know what doom is not into doom, could listen to this record and not even understand it's a doom record. Fans of doom can listen to this and pick up those elements. So it is multifaceted, lots of layers, lots of textures. I won't go too long into the songs, but every song is different. Every song has a different feel, a different flavor to the vocals. There's a song called The Dress. That's an 8 minutes track that partway through, you hear some trumpet and you hear some jazz guitar, as if Miles and Kenny Burrell were trading off. Then it goes into your ripping guitar and your doom sound. The last song is a 9-minute epic. It really showcases all of the different styles that they've done over their previous records. Hits on all cylinders, ends with some harsh vocals and some screams. So again, this is a record that if you're into Electric Wizard and Sleep and you just want to kind of bang your head, this isn't it. This is one to sit back, really, take in, absorb. sort of think of a Pink Floyd experience where you're hearing so many different sounds and elements. So that's my number 3, Mesa, the spin.
Okay. I have not checked out Mesa yet. Somebody did recommend that I check them out, so I will bump them up on the list. All right, looks like it was a doomy 2025 so far. Spoiler alert, you may be seeing more Doom later. Let's go down to Phil. Phil, what have you got for your first 3?
Well, it so happens that I'm also gonna start with Mesa. So thanks, Alex, for showing the that beautiful vinyl. What I'll say to you already said like all the necessary points about Mesa. I discovered them with their previous album, which I think is called Close,
Yes.
and I was blown away. I didn't expect it. I thought it was one of these sort of new age kind of hipstery thing, which comes across as something very deep but really isn't. And when I heard it, I was really, really blown away. The Sarah, as you said, the voice, she's not one of those, it's not one of those female vocalists who is very ethereal or who goes to really high notes. She has something that's very reminiscent of that occult area. And the way I would describe them, especially on this album, which is quite different from the previous one, and I like that. These guys are they don't stay on the beaten path. They choose to do new things and to introduce, let's say, some of that shoegaze you said, or some of the sort of Cure elements. It's like if Black Sabbath of Masters of Reality and Led Zeppelin of Three and Physical Graffiti went into a bar, and the bartender was Jim Morrison, but he only ever wrote the end. And add into that something of the occult, and you have a female vocalist, and maybe that sort of summarizes it. It's really beautiful record. It's 41 minutes, as you said, but those 41 minutes are really dense. You really need to spend a lot of time with this record to really grasp all the various things that come that make up this record musically, aesthetically, sonically, lyrically as well. One of the tunes that's a real like kind of dark and somber ballad called Immolation. It's so reminiscent of Since I've Been Loving You, Led Zeppelin, especially the solo, that sort of really melancholic, dark, doomy almost blues, but it's not like a ripoff of Since I've Been Loving You. But it does feel like these guys are taking Led Zeppelin and they're really reintroducing them through a new filter in the present. So Messa's album is just amazing. I'm more of a prog guy, if maybe many have realized by now. Um, but I love Sabbath, I love Zeppelin, I like the Doors as well. So this album just really is really captivating. The next one I'll go to, which has nothing to do with Mesa, is completely left field from that, is the latest album by Helloween, the undeniable masters of European power metal. And on this one, they are really on top form. What's it called? Giants and Monsters. The previous album that came out, which was the first one as I think, a seven-piece band with three singers as Pumpkins United, was good. It has some, I'd say half of the album is really, really good. The other half is good and sometimes just doesn't work. Maybe because it was just the first album as Pumpkins United and they still hadn't really found their footing. Here, after quite a few years of touring as well, they have really made something that's more representative of what we know as Halloween, both the Andy Darius era and the Michael Kiske era and the era of like the Walls of Jericho with Kai Hansen on vocals. Superb record, very nicely produced, and has a nice kind of balance of compositions by Michael Wyckoff, by Kai Hansen, by Andy Darius, even by Sasha Gerstner, the youngest guitarist in the band. So really, really solid album. Great return to form by Halloween. So that's two. Do I do
One
three?
more.
I forget.
Yeah, one
Okay, one more. Okay, now I'm going back into my sort of more predictable choices. My first prog album Number three, let's say, a prog album for this year is by a Swedish bass player, songwriter, all in all, accomplished musician called Jonas Lindberg. The band is called Jonas Lindberg and the Other Side. This is the third album by this band. Basically, Jonas Lindberg, like many of these prog artists, he knows a bunch of people from his neighborhood, I guess, and they all come together, and he sort of like writes the music, and he gets various musicians to play for him. And I'm going to use a term that was coined by the guys on the Prog Report. This is Morse core. Morse referring to Neil Morse, who used to be, well, basically he created Spock's Beard in the 90s. It was like Dream Theater and Neil Morse and Spock's Beard were the two kind of pillars of 90s prog rock metal. Yeah, this is very much in that realm of Neil Morse. You hear a lot of Genesis, you hear a lot of Yes, you hear a little bit of Rush, maybe a little bit of pop and even folky stuff. But again, this is prog, so the durations are pretty long. The longest tune here is 17 minutes. Others are 12, 9, 8 minutes. Very adventurous music but doesn't venture into metal at all. But it's got that kind of yes factor of a driving bass, as though Chris Squire was there, and yeah, really adventurous music again. Lots of soloing, lots of melodies, beautiful keyboards that kind of establish that melodic foundation. So, I mean, I ordered this from the guy himself, so check him out. Uh, do give him a try. You haven't listened to him yet. You'll probably find him on streaming services. And maybe you should even try to get the physical copy. So those are my three for now.
Okay, very good. And off the beaten track recommendations.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, Kevin, let's do your first three.
All right. Great picks so far. Apparently I have to give that Mesa album another try.
Yeah.
I listened to it earlier in the year. It didn't connect right away. It's good. I recognize it as great music. The musicianship is outstanding. Just didn't connect. But I'm gonna re-listen to that after listening to you two guys. So I'm gonna cheat right off the bat because I have a tie for fifth, but I'll go quickly. And they're both kind of in that doom realm. So the first one is Kaiser, Second Sound. It's their second album. They're from Finland, and it's pretty much stoner metal. But what I like about it is it takes a few twists and turns, and at times it's a little more aggressive than your standard fare. It's got a big fuzzy guitar, kind of effects laden vocals, almost distorted vocals, but at times it gets really upbeat, and I kind of like that. It's not kind of slower or in that mid tempo that you get with a lot of stoner rock. Great band. I dig the artwork big time. It's just kind of got that vibe to it, and yeah, it's eight songs. Sorry, it's about 45 minutes long. It's on Majestic Mountain Records. So if you know that label, it's kind of in that realm. But like I said, there's some instrumental parts that kind of take some twists and turns, some tempo changes and things like that. So it's not just kind of one note. And then the other one,
The album cover looks a bit like Sleep Jerusalem, Dope Smoke or
yes,
whatever.
yes, a little bit, yeah.
I was gonna say it looks like that Agripelter album, but anyway.
Yeah, it does.
And then the other one is Kal-El, Astral Voyager, and they are from Norway. This is their fifth album. 6 songs. I think it's a little over 40 minutes. It's on Majestic Mountain again. And also Blues Funeral, I think, is the distributor here in the States. It's a bit more of a concept album. Astral Voyager, someone, sailing through the galaxy and the adventures along the way. Has more of a almost an Ozzy style vocals to it. If you think kind of the higher vocals like from Sabbath Bloody Sabbath or Sabotage, it's up in that range, sort of. Big fuzzy guitar, heavy drums. Um, there's not a lot of guitar soloing, but when they do it, it's pretty good and tasty. And yeah, it's got more of a cosmic, ethereal kind of vibe to it. I think is exactly, meets the concept like they're going for. Yeah, they were new to me this year. I'm interested in digging into their back catalog, and their physical product is hard to come by. It's sold out everywhere, and they repress it occasionally. I think they did their first album again this year, so I ordered that. But yeah, good band, good band. So that's number 5. Number 4 is the new Coroner. I was not a huge Coroner fan, but I saw a lot of people were reviewing this and saying it was so good, and so I took a dive on it, and it's really good. Where a lot of times I value variety on an album. It kind of showcases a band's abilities. This, I'm not gonna say it's one note, but it's relentless, and it really
Consistent.
yeah, consistent, and it's precise.
And if you
You
want
know, you can
variety,
tell
go back
that-
to their earlier stuff. This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a powerhouse, and it just gets better with each listen. You really sense how I get the sense, it was their first album in 32 years, but I read back, they were writing songs for this all the way back to 2014, and it feels like it really they took the time to really craft these songs, and there's just a lot of little interesting intricacies and the instrumentation and how it all just comes together. In points there's kind of longer, a couple of songs start out with long instrumental pieces, and then you get into the lyrics, and I kind of, it's all just very well put together, I feel like, and it's 47, almost 48 minutes long, but it all just it flies by to me, and then there's just a few little like I think in the last song there's some electric organ, which you don't really expect, and doesn't sound like should work on a technical thrash album, which I feel this is, but it fits perfectly. Yeah, so just a great album. And then my number 3 is the new Dream Theater. I have sort of a I don't know, it's not love hate, but I kind of lean towards the early Dream Theater stuff, and this was obviously the first album back with Mike Portnoy, and I think you really sense that. He's the secret sauce to this band. It's heavier than their last few albums, probably back to the Train of Thought album in the early 2000s. I think it has sort of that vibe. It's a concept album about sleep and dreams, and the title is
Sleep
Parasomnia.
disorders.
Yeah. It starts off pretty well with In the Arms of Morpheus, and Night Terror is a great song. Broken Man's good song. And then from there on, I think it just gets better. It's a really deep album. Dead Asleep, Midnight Messiah is great. Are We Dreaming is kind of almost an interlude. And then Bend the Clock, I think, is a beautiful song. Starts off kind of soft, and it builds, and it ends in this gigantic John Petrucci guitar solo, which I just think is just awesome. And then the whole side 4 is the Shadow Man incident, which has got everything in it. It's, typical Dream Theater writing the 20-minute epic or a giant epic on the last song. Yeah, it was at the top for me for most of the year until I got a couple more albums toward the end of the year. But yeah, it's one I'm going back to a lot these days still, and it came out in February, I think. So yeah, those are my 5, 4, and 3.
All right, very good. We'll go down to West Coast Dave. Dave, give us your first 3.
Cool, I will. All right, my number 5 is an album called Cosmic Seeds by a band called Brown Spirits. And the cover looks like that. This is an Australian band. I would describe it as kind of urgent spiraling space rock. sort of krautrock style. It's got wah guitars and like echoplexes and stuff like that. I wrote my notes. It's got rolling, rocking drums that keep it from meandering too much. The music really propels itself forward, even though it's instrumental. It doesn't get boring to me. Um, it's got like some soft, trippy kind of traveling passages and that evolve into like more hard rocking stuff. It's got cool keyboards in it too. I really like to listen to this album while I read. It sets the atmosphere. It's not like it's not like an ambient album though. It's definitely a rock album. They have another. If I was going to suggest a song from Cosmic Seeds, I would say the song "Mind Rocker" is really cool. It's kind of like if that band Noi had a guitar player, and it's really hypnotic sort of sounding. Their first album is called Solitary Transmissions, and I really like that one a lot. So it's just instrumental Australian rock music. Really good stuff. I like it a lot. Okay, my number four is going to be Steven Wilson, the overview. Okay. And so when I first heard this, maybe it didn't really grab me, but when I saw him play at the Masonic in San Francisco, that was the best show that I saw all year, and I saw a lot of them. And it to me, it was like Pink Floyd was reborn or something for a new generation. And he played this album, but the album's got two sides. One of them is called Objects Outlive Us. That's the first side, which I prefer quite a bit. And then the second side's called The Overview. And he played both of those back to back to start the show. And it just blew my mind. So the album's about the relationship between the universe and the individual, I guess you could say. And and then it's about things that happen in space and how the things that happen on Earth are very insignificant compared to the things that happen in space. For instance, galaxies could collide and we don't care, you know. Um, it's conceptually it's fascinating. The first side of the album, it just the instrumentation on it is just mind blowing. Nick Beggs, I've been a huge fan of for a long time, and I'm really glad Steven Wilson keeps him around. He's a fantastic bass player, and this thing drops out into a bass solo on the first side, and it'll just rip your face off. It's just really, really good stuff. Um, the overview, the second side is more kind of electronic. He got his wife to do some narration, and she's kind of almost chanting out some like space terms. I've heard people criticize that part, and I kind of get it. Maybe it could have been done a little bit differently, but that all gives way to more organic instruments and good melodies. And it's a really good album, by the way, and it made my list, like I said, because I saw the show and it just totally blew me away. So that's number four. Um, my next, my third favorite album of the year on this list is going to be Geese. And this album is called Getting Killed. You might have heard about this album. It's it's very trendy. It's very word of mouth. It's very hip. Kids like it. My son's 21 years old, and I asked him after I started listening to this, "Hey, have you heard of this band?" Because it kept getting recommended to me. And he said, "Yeah, that's like my favorite band right now." Um, and so if you've never heard them before, by the way, the cover is really cool. It looks like somebody's blowing a bugle or something, like Gabriel's blowing a bugle. But if you look really closely, somebody's pointing a gun right at your face. And it took me a really long time to see that. And it's pretty cool
Oh,
because when you're not up close to it, you can't tell what it really is. And I think that the cover really kind of describes the music a lot. If you first listen to this, it really might take you a long time to get into. It definitely took me a lot of listens before I finally started to figure it out. I would say it's sort of like Radiohead and the Velvet Underground had a baby.
huh.
They're a New York band. The drummer is really, really good. The lyrics are absolutely brilliant. Their singer is named Cameron Winters, and he put out an album this year. Actually, it was December last year, but pretty close, called Heavy Metal. And a lot of people, it's not heavy metal though. A lot of
Yeah.
people have that album on their year-end lists or this one too, like Pitchfork and sites like that. Um, the song Getting Killed is fantastic. There's a song called Taxes. There's a song called Islands of Men that I really like. I would say that if you wanted to get into this band, watch them perform on Live from the Basement. Watch some of their live stuff on YouTube, and then you maybe start to understand a little bit. It's certainly not metal, though. um, he's got a great lyric on one of the songs where he says, "You don't have to waste your time." And you can look all over this album and just find just tons of good lyrics everywhere. Luckily, that's the end of my first three picks because I got to get up and turn the lights back on. My lights are on a timer.
I hate
That
those
that
motion
geese,
sensor lights.
yeah, that Geese album is really good. That was a late discovery for me. It didn't make my top five, obviously, but
Oh, good. There's somebody else that likes it. Well, Kevin, if you
no,
listen to it more over time, you might just start really liking it a lot more. I know I did. At
yeah, I
first, I was
listened
kind
to
of
it.
like, huh? The singer's got a warbly voice. He's kind
Yeah,
of singing like this, and you're sort of like, no,
yeah,
dude. But then if you listen to it more and you start to understand, you're like, okay, okay, I get you.
yeah, yeah,
I'd say see it live, see it on YouTube. Then you'll start to
yeah,
understand the energy and the
yeah,
power that these guys really bring.
yeah. You're right. There's like little Easter eggs in there. The more you listen, you find little things, and yeah,
Yeah.
dude, it grows on you. Yeah.
It was probably my number five when I first started making the list, and then it's crawled up to number
Hmm.
three at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Nice diverse group so far. Well, I'm going to add to the Doom pool. I really started getting into, as one record label says, Doom, Stoner, Desert, and Heavy Psych about 3 years ago. And honestly, I don't even know what the difference between these various music forms is. It all sounds like heavy metal to me. I'm too old to worry about these stupid subgenres, right? But I am very happy to find these record labels that specialize in this stuff. And because they're smaller distributions, a lot of them are on Bandcamp. And what I've been doing for the last several years is I just wait until Bandcamp Friday and I'll go buy a handful of albums on Bandcamp Friday so that the label or the musician gets like 100% of the sale. So combine that with everyone should know by now, the Contrarians has a Patreon. One of the things we do on the Patreon is a Secret Santa thing, where we just recommend an album for somebody to listen to, and then you come back and say what you were gifted with. And I always like to go through the list and see what people have been recommended. And there was one that I read the description and went, "Yep, I'm getting that." And sure enough, it was pretty awesome. And West Coast Dave, thanks. I had not thought about pulling this up on my phone because I buy it in. I'm out of space to store physical media. I mean, I've got a room like Alexploitation there downstairs. So now if I can get a high res download, I just get it on download. That's going to be a band called Winds of Neptune.
Great album.
It's so here's the thing about Doom and Stoner. As much as I love the sound of fuzzy guitar all tends to sound kind of the same. What fuzz does is it hyper compresses it, it kills your dynamics. There's only so distorted you can make a signal. So when you start with a fuzzy guitar tone, there's just not a lot of places to go with it. So that foundational element of the music can be very samey. So what I'm looking for is what other elements a band brings into this basic Doom scenario. And by the way, I've always found it weird that people say that Master of Reality like started Doom, because to me, I'm like, you know what? The first three notes Black Sabbath ever played started Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go three albums. It was three notes. That started the whole genre.
They weren't down tuned yet, though. The first two Sabbath albums are in standard tuning.
True, but you don't have to downtune Doom, just like you don't have to slow down Doom. Although I've started feeling like it may be more about lyrical content. If your lyrics aren't about Doom, it's not Doom. Just like if your music isn't about being sad, it's not the blues, right? So Winds of Neptune, what they bring to the party is space rock. Kind of much to my surprise. I would say I hear a lot more like Hawkwind and maybe Captain Beyond on top of those Sabbathy elements. So it's got a lot of atmosphere. It's got a lot of open passages on top of the heavy guitars. The lyrics are not my favorite. They're kind of trippy, nonsensical lyrics, which is fine. They fit the mood of the music. And you know, maybe if I were stoned all the time, I would get more into them. I mean, that, let's face it, that is an element of stoner rock. There's a reason they call it that. But anyway, number 5 is going to be Winds of Neptune. And then my number 4, whoops, lost my there we go. And this will the person that I recommended this album on, the Secret Santa, we'll figure out who recommended it. It's going to be an album called Silver and Gold from a band called Rainbows Are Free. So I got this specifically because I lived in Oklahoma City for 16 years, and Rainbows Are Free are from Norman, Oklahoma, which is where the University of Oklahoma is. It's at the southern end of the Oklahoma City Metroplex, although the band got started about 5 years after I moved. I'm sure there's no relationship between those two things. Anyway, once again, while it is primarily Sabbath-influenced rhythms, they again add in those atmospheric elements. They're more space. I wouldn't say they go as far as Winds of Neptune. They're not really space rock, but they do have some more ambient sounding, like keyboard beds behind the music, which I think is cool. And the vocalist has a very, his voice is very conversational pitch, which is different than a lot of singers, but he still sounds like he's pushing a lot of air. So sometimes when people are singing at a conversational pitch, you know, they're not physically working as hard, and you can hear that. It makes the vocal a little less intense. But this guy is still pushing a lot of air. And according to their little blurb on Bandcamp, the guy's almost 7 feet tall. I don't know how much hyperbole that is, but it's apparently quite the spectacle if you see them live. Maybe I will one of these days. I don't know. They would have to come down to DFW. But anyway, it's one that I've been spending a lot of time with and just really enjoying. Now, for my number 3, I had to kind of revise my own rules a little bit. We're the only arbiters of our choices. But in 2025, I bought a lot of reissues. This just seems to be a year that a lot of things are being reissued. And I wasn't going to include any reissues. I mean, that's old music. But there's one that I liked so much that I had to include it because it's from my man Bruce Dickinson. The Mandrake Project was absolutely one of my favorite albums of, is that 2024, 2023? Now I don't even remember. 24. And I went and saw this concert. Phenomenal. Bruce is still phenomenal. But before he went out on the road, he released more Balls to Picasso. So Balls to Picasso, I got when it came out. Through the whole of the 90s, I loved Bruce's solo output more than Iron Maiden. That's probably true even of the 21st century. I mean, the first one, Tattooed
I think you're
Millionaire,
going to be canceled after this.
Yeah. That's all right. Bring it on, Maiden fans. It's all good for the algorithm. Tattooed Millionaire is like a hair metal album. It's a pretty throwaway album. He says they recorded it over a drunken weekend, and, you know, it's fine. But when he came out with Balls to Picasso, this was after he had left Iron Maiden. He was still in Maiden when he did Tattooed Millionaire. So now he's left Iron Maiden, records a complete album, which he describes as trying to get, and I'm quoting, a spooky Peter Gabriel-y kind of vibe. Then he was at a bar, watched Roy Z's band, The Tribe of Gypsies, play, trashed his entire album that he recorded, and started over with The Tribe of Gypsies as his backing band and recorded Balls to Picasso. And it's a hard album to love. It's not in any way heavy metal. Some of the songs are heavy. I mean, it's heavy-ish rock, but there's a lot of space in it. There's a lot of, I think, still that Peter Gabriel-y mindset behind it. There's no real Latin influence. Well, maybe on a couple. Laughing in the Heidenbush has a little bit of Latin in it. But I don't know anybody else who loves that album. And I listened to it a lot because I was like, I want to love this album. And it just, I liked it, but I didn't quite love it. Well, I guess he decided that he had had enough of people not loving that album. So when he re-released it, it's the same album, but he went back and all of that space is gone. He cranked everything up to 10. He added new instrumentation and drum elements, and he changed it from a minimalist production to this maximalist wall of sound crushing heavy metal album. And it's really the only person I've ever heard do something similar was David Bowie. After he was dead, they re-released his album Never Let Me Down with completely re-recorded instrumentals. And you're like, oh, so that's what those songs would have sounded like. It's an utterly different experience than listening to Balls to Picasso, even though it's the exact same vocal tracks, it's the exact same melodies, but it's a slamming heavy metal album. And he did like 5 songs of it live, and they fit very well with all of his more recent material. So I was surprised. I didn't honestly, I'm surprised it was worth the effort for him to do, because I doubt this sold a lot of copies back in the day. And I don't know that anybody wanted this, but I was glad to get it and I liked it.
Cool.
All right. Got 2 more. It doesn't have to be your top 2. It can just be your other 2, but it's all good. Alex, tell us about your other 2.
Well, this will be my top 2.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a complete 180, or as many people would erroneously say a 360. And we're going with Larkin Poe, Bloom.
Oh,
So
nice.
this is on Tricky Woo Records. It's their record label. Came out in January. 11 songs, 42 minutes. It's their 8th album. That includes one re-release of their first album with some extra songs and a cover tune album. So these women are from Georgia. They started as the Lavelle Sisters in the early 2000s, and that was with Jessica joining Rebecca and Megan. And then in 2010, they went to a duo, and that's just Rebecca and Megan, and that makes up Larkin Poe. And they actually take their name from the great-great-great-great-grandfather who was a cousin of Edgar Allan Poe. So,
I see that.
So Rebecca is lead vocals. She does acoustic and electric guitar, mandolin, violin, and then Megan harmony vocals and lap steel. And this is roots rock. So you're getting some blues, you're getting some folk, you're getting some country, lots of different sounds that I hear. And so I'm going to throw out some names. And if you like some of these artists, maybe check them out. Brandy Carlisle, Grace Potter, Bonnie Raitt, Sheryl Crow, Beth Hart, a little more recent, Samantha Fish, ZZ Ward. This is just a duo that is doing it right. And I would like them to be a household name. And they certainly have that sound that could be, and they've done more than you or accomplished more than you would think if you haven't heard the name Larkin
They're
Poe.
quite popular in Europe, actually.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
They're making quite a splash in Europe.
Okay. Well, in 2022, their album Blood Harmony won a Grammy for Best Contemporary Blues Album. They played on Steven Tyler's solo album. They worked with T-Bone Burnett. They worked with Billy Gibbons. So in the musician circle, they're known. And I'm not saying they're unknown elsewhere. I just think that they should, have that more like on them, like a Brandy Carlisle, because they really are fantastic. Rebecca's voice is rich, it's husky, it's soulful. I just love the way that she sounds. Megan on the lap steel is just incredible. And the way that their vocals blend, it's just great music. And that's why it was almost number 3 until earlier today, and I bumped it to 2 just because of how much I kept going back to it. There are some albums, as I said earlier, bigger artists that I didn't put on, because as I was compiling my list, I realized I didn't play it since I first heard it 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. It wasn't a repeat. This I kept going back to and back to. So it starts off with Mockingbird, which is a great melodic rock opener. Second song is Easy Love Part 1. To me, easily one of the singles of the year. Great song, great video. I recommend checking that out, and you really kind of get the vibe of who they are and what they do. If God is a Woman, great, just straight up rock blues number. there's a song here on here called Pearls, scorching guitar work on that, a real great rock song. The steel lap steel shines through, ends on a couple of slower numbers, so you get a lot of different flavors and textures within this album. It's real authentic music. Again, moving away from, as much as I love my metal, my doom, as you saw before that, I love all types of music, as you can see from this room. I just think this is some real honest music, and that's something that I can always go back to when I hear something that is genuine and real, and that's what this is. So that's number 2 is Larkin Poe Bloom.
All right.
Now, going back to the earlier, this is a band I would like to know if anybody knows them. Temple Fang.
Temple Fang, yeah, great.
Okay. So this is Lifted from the Wind. Philip, I would love for you to listen to this and let me know what you think. Okay.
Yeah.
So this came out in April on Stickman Records. It's 5 minutes. It's 5 songs, 74 minutes. That's a long album, but I'm telling you, every second is perfect. They're a band from Amsterdam. They formed in 2018. Their debut album came out in 2020. They did an EP in 2022, but they consider this to be their real, true studio.
Got it.
Debut. Good.
Yeah.
So this is a seamless blend of, I talked to Mesa, all their styles. I wrote down on here: psych, prog, space rock, stoner rock, ambient, doom, drone. I mean, this has it all. And as I looked at some other reviews and also mixed in some bands that I thought they sounded like, we have Pink Floyd, we have Camel, King Buffalo, Elder, Earth, Pallbearer, Can, Hawkwind.
Jesus.
It's this. I'm telling you, I don't think I'm overreacting. And again, when I was into them before, but when I got this album, I just kept playing it and playing it, and I was just on vacation last week reviewing everything that was going to be on my list. This one I just kept playing it.
Yeah.
I just think it's fantastic. There's tons of ear candy. There's soundscapes. This, to me, here's what I hear. It's sort of in a nutshell. You take Wish You Were Here, and you take some of the last couple albums of Pallbearer, which were a little not as doomy and more stretched out and ambient, and put those together.
Jazzy.
It's the guitar work is off the charts. There's 2 vocalists on this that this, again, seamless. You don't even know when one starts another. It just blends. So the 5 songs, there's an 18-minute track, 7-minute, 21, 12, and 15. But again, that adds up to 74 minutes. That does not seem long and laborious. This takes you on a journey. This is definitely an album to sit back and enjoy. Just let the music, take you where you want to go. If you have some gummies with you, maybe it takes you in another direction, right? But this is by far, to me, the album of the year. This is the band I cannot wait to see where they go next. They did add a new drummer to this album, who I think is fantastic. So again, any of those bands that I mentioned and any of those sounds, especially the space rock element and the sort of modern day Pink Floyd / stoner rock, I urge you to check this band out. So that's my number 1. That is Temple Fang, Lifted from the Wind.
And you also got all the signatures.
I'll say back on what Reed said. I'd love to get stuff off of Bandcamp, and anytime it comes directly from the band, I say, "Hey, I'm a fan. Can you sign it?" And many times the answer is yes, and yeah. So that's my signed copy. Yeah.
Very nice.
Cool.
Sold, buddy.
That's
Definitely
a
gotta
great.
check that out.
Yeah, definitely was in my top 15. That's a great
I
album.
have no idea, so I'm just gonna definitely go on that trip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also
me
told
too.
you to
Yes,
listen to
as well.
Philip. I told you to listen to Terrence Trent D'Arby too, so you may think I'm crazy, but
I know, I checked him out as well.
Had you
For
never
you
heard
or no?
Terrence Trent D'Arby? Okay.
yeah.
God, I'm old. Okay. One of the things I love about this show is getting turned on to new music. So there's always lots that comes up in the year-end wrap-ups. So Phil, you've got 2 more for us, right? What have you got?
Okay. If you saw the previous panel I was on with Dave as well, where we did heavy prog that kicks ass, this is very predictable about me. My stuff has already been mentioned. Steven Wilson, the overview, I absolutely adore Steven Wilson. When I saw him playing this on this tour in Paris, It was one of those very, very, very rare times where actually I was crying at the end. Um, and I'm not exaggerating. The overview is his kind of like very obvious return to what his fans expect from him, which is the more kind of well-known Steven Wilson prog. But this one is like a summary of his journey until now. You hear a little bit of The Raven, you hear a little bit of Hand Count Erase, you hear quite a bit of the Harmony Codex and a little bit of the Future Bites. And it all blends into these two songs, which have everything, as I said. The first part, Objects Outlive Us, is more in that kind of 70s prog rock. The second part has a little bit of the electronic ambient EDM, uh, Radiohead stuff, Kid A, and all that. But it's Steven Wilson, and it's brilliant. As always, the production is sublime because Steven Wilson is one of the greatest sound engineers, producers, mixers, everything on this planet in the universe. Yeah, I think this is an absolutely solid return to form. And of course, my number one has to be, it cannot be anything else, but of course, also Dream Theater. I do have to say the only thing about this album that I think is really negative, even though I just choose to disregard it, is the cover, which was AI.
Yeah.
And there have been claims from another band that this cover was kind of ripped off from them. But anyway, the music is great. Mike Portnoy is back. He is the secret sauce. He's always been because he's a real fan
Mhm.
of music because he plays with his heart. He plays with great feeling, not just with chops. Let's not get into that too much. Okay. This album is basically it takes off where they dropped off last time. So
Mhm.
that's with Black Cloud and Silver Linings. Quite a bit of a train of thought, as Kevin said. Um, and a little bit of the sort of Mangini era stuff because that's where Petrucci was kind of he became the front man in a way. And you hear a lot of his kind of different style of riffing and composition from that era. But yeah, this is a real return to form. It's the best album since, I don't know, before even 2010. They're not reinventing the wheel. They're not playing something that is as revolutionary and mind-blowing as Scenes from a Memory or Images and Words. Many people expected them that now with Portnoy back, they will do something that is again just absolutely sublime. It's not, but it's like you're back home. It feels familiar, and it's a good, warm, fuzzy feeling of coming back home, and that for me is more than enough. So number one is Dream Theater.
Okay.
Great choice.
Finally
Yeah.
starting to see a few overlaps here and there, and spoiler alert, there'll be at least one more before we finish. But let's go to
All
Kevin,
right.
see what we've got for his last two.
All right. Number two is a band out of New York called Castle
Oh,
Rat.
Hmm.
yes, the very, very
And
hyped Castle Rat. They're everywhere, these guys.
they
Yeah.
are. They're touring like crazy and it's on a lot of year-end lists. I just saw a review of it and I said, oh, it sounds interesting, so I'll pick it up. And these last two albums for me are the ones I keep going back to the most, and they're the most fun. Um, I saw a review of this on Banger, and if you see the band, here, let me pull up a picture. I don't know if that shows or not.
Yeah, the
They're
front
kind of
woman is
this,
pretty cool. She's
yeah, it's very fantasy, medieval doom. But like Reed said, all this stuff is just heavy metal. I view it more as a heavy metal album, but they have a lot of theatrics if you see their live shows. Um, and get back to that review on Banger, and he said, "Well, is it a gimmick? Of course, it's a gimmick. It's heavy metal. Everything is a gimmick." So, and I kind of view it that way. It's not. It To me, it still has an honesty to it, though, and they're going for it. They're all in on this gimmick, if you want to call it that. But I think the music is really good too. Songs like Wolf. there's Wolf 1 and Wolf 2. I'm saying Wolf 1. The Wizard, Siren, Dragon, Sun Song, um, heavy drums, heavy guitar, but not fuzzed out guitar, just, good Sabbathy type riffs. Occasionally they'll speed it up and there'll be a, kind of faster paced solo, but it's not a ton of that. Real atmospheric music. From song to song, it can really vary between something that there's a lot of interludes. There's 4 or 5, I think, throughout the album. Kind of just takes you up and down on this ride. And yeah, I'm dying to see this band live. I've seen a lot of stuff on YouTube. It just looks great. And like Philip said, they're getting a lot of hype these days. But I think it's for good reason. It's their second album. I haven't listened to their first album yet. Apparently, this was a huge step up. It's on Blues Funeral and King Volume Records. So, and they're selling vinyl like crazy, and I think they're like on their 10th or 11th pressing of this thing. They're all small numbers, but they keep selling out every time. So if you want to pick up a physical copy, it's not hard on Bandcamp. They just keep putting them out in waves. So good album. And then for number 1, Reed, I have a confession, because I was the one who suggested Winds of Neptune, and I saw your comment on the Secret Santa.
Yeah.
Not so secret.
Yeah, not secret anymore. Secret's out. I love this album. I think these guys are great. You can tell the songs are born out of jamming together. And reading interviews with these guys, they got together in the pandemic. The lead singer and bassist even said, they let me sort of learn bass on this album, because he plays keyboards and other things in other bands, and he's like, oh, I'm going to learn bass. But the band is really tight. If you watch live clips on YouTube, it's really great. You tell these guys have spent many hours in the rehearsal studio together playing. The guitar is great. It's there are heavy metal-ish kind of Sabbath moments to it, but the guitar player is really tasteful, and there's long instrumental parts to the songs, and then they can come back to that original riff, but it veers, goes off in different directions. And then I have the vinyl on the way. It's taking forever to get here from Europe, just like everything these days. I will say, if you stream it or have the CD, there's 2 extra tracks. They're not really bonus tracks. They just chose to, they were only doing one LP, so they left off those last 2 if you see it on streaming. But those last 2 are every bit as good, and they're the longer ones. I think one is 9 minutes and one's 10 minutes long. They're every bit as good as everything else on the album. But I think every song is good. It's very consistent. The lyrics, like you said, Reed, they can be sort of obscure and out there. I was on the fence, like this could be total nonsense, but I'm kind of buying into it at this moment. So I like it. I think that especially that last song, what's the Into the Void, or something about the void, I forget the name of the title. That one is really, those lyrics are pretty good, actually. Yeah. So yeah, great band, great instrumentalists, really tight, and I dig them a lot. And I listen to so many albums these days. I don't even know where I found that band. It was probably through the label or something. I just gave it a shot, and you never know what you're going to find. So Winds of Neptune is my number 1.
Right. Hey, that's been my whole journey with Doom. Like I said, I just pick a record label and just start going down their roster. And it's the ones that are a little different that stand out, though, right? If they're just Sabbath clones, well, there's a lot of those. So you want something that's a little different.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that about these last 2. They're different. And yeah, if you buy something on Bandcamp too, you get a lot of the emails and stuff. Hey, you like this, and then you'll get recommendations up the wazoo. So that's a good way to find new music.
Yeah. All right. A good plug for Bandcamp. All right. West Coast Dave, give us your last 2.
Yeah. Okay. My last 2. Why is this messing with me? I'm sorry, guys. One of my favorite artists of all time is Jeff Buckley.
Oh,
And
Oh, yeah.
luckily, there is a new album from him because it's the soundtrack to a documentary that came out this year.
mm,
And it's called
that's
It's
familiar.
Never Over, Songs from the Film. For my money, he could sing anything. He could outsing anyone. I still think he's the greatest artist of my generation, even though he only put out one album. But all the stuff that I have of Jeff Buckley could make a big old stack, you know? I mean, I just love him. It's a 2 hour retrospective, career retrospective, and I just love it. The song Grace, when he sings Wait in the Fire, it's just so intense. That is one of my favorite lines ever. Just the idea that you wait in the fire and you're just being tortured, and that's what he was. He was a tortured artist, you know. He sings. There's covers on this album. He sings just like a woman. Imagine if Dylan could actually sing like an angel. You can find out if you listen to this album. He does a version of Sly and the Family Stone's "Everyday People" with just him and the guitar, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, his voice, it's just the best. It's the best voice I think I've ever heard in my entire life, really is. Except maybe like Annie Lennox or something. I don't know. But my only complaints would be he did this cover of Big Star called Kangaroo that was just sprawling and epic and just great. And I think they should have put that on there somewhere. And he put out a song called The Sky is a Landfill that I just think is a masterpiece that is also missing from that collection. But besides that, just highly recommended. Just what a great artist. Fantastic album. Okay. My number one is this album right here called Contraster. And it's a split. It's from George Joe and Breidablik. And they're both from Norway. And George Joe is a duo from Oslo. And both these bands are 10 years old, and they decided to put out a split called Contraster, where they would take the idea of contrasting musical elements and see what they could do with it. And both bands made a song called Contraster, so you can contrast them against one another. The George Joe's part of this is it's pastoral and it has flute. It does have vocals that are in Norwegian. Um, it switches to a sort of angular sound with distorted guitar leads. The song transforms itself more than once. It really will take you on a journey. The last 4 minutes of the first side of this album, it's kind of like the clouds part, the drums start to come in, and then the last 2 minutes of this 20-minute song, the guitar playing is just out of this world. I mean, the reason why I chose this as my number one is I just listened to this a million times. I just can't get enough of it. The guitar solo is not trying to be flashy. I wrote down it's trying to be just more like frippy, you know, more frippy than flashy. And it's just so heartfelt and so beautiful. Breidablik's side is also about 20 minutes long, and it's more electronic. It has these beautiful transitions, though. There's no vocals on their part. It's a very spacey sort of sci-fi sound. And then there's a fuzzy, contrasting kind of sound. It's ultimately varied and just very, very fulfilling. And boy, I just listened to this over and over and over and over and over again. And that's my number one.
Okay, very good. It's music I've never heard of before, and that's cool. All right, we're already just over an hour, so I'm going to do mine relatively quickly for my wrap up. But I had to bump an album to put another album on there, and I want to talk about it in honorable mentions. So if you guys are cool hanging out, we'll go around one more time and do some honorable mentions, like quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really struggled with this next album, whether it was appropriate to pick as one of my top albums of 2025. And because it's not new music.
Oh.
It was released in 2025, but it's recorded in the 70s. But here's the thing. It's from a band that most of our people are real heavy into, but I've only ever been a casual fan. But I loved this actually EP. And that's going to be the Led Zeppelin live EP.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's usually when you think of Led Zeppelin, and you think about what they might have been like in concert, they weren't nearly as good as you're thinking. They were drunk. Jimmy Page is fumbly, and that whole thing where he plays the guitar with the violin bow, that sounds like shit. It always did.
It does. It does.
I mean, they weren't that good of an experience. This album sounds exactly like you think Led Zeppelin ought to sound.
Yeah.
Each one of these 4 songs is good. It's like the plutonic ideal of a live Led Zeppelin album. And the only complaint I can have of it is why 4 songs? I have not looked into the history of this. I don't know where these recordings suddenly came from, but he couldn't find 2 more songs to put out a full length instead of an EP. That's just weird to me. But nonetheless, well, one, if anybody out there is a Led Zeppelin fan, you already have this. I mean, I don't even know why I need to mention that. But if you're like me and you're like, I can take or leave Zeppelin. I don't mind when they're playing, but I don't go out of my way to listen to them. This was an album that I found myself, like, if we were in a car trip, this is the album I put on. It's that good that after listening to it, I go back and listen to Zeppelin studio albums because I'm like, I must be missing something on their studio albums because I don't like them as well as this. So the Led Zeppelin live EP, but I'm really sorry that I had to bump another album to make room for this, so I'm going to throw it in as an honorable mention. Since I'm the host, I get to do that. And then my number 1 pick of the year, when it gets right down to it, I'm a traditional heavy metal guy. And it's already been brought up, but we're going with Halloween, Giants and Monsters.
Yeah.
And everything Phil said earlier, I completely agree with. Halloween has had a weird 21st century. They only average about 1 album every 3 years. And I was just looking it up. There was a space of, like, before they did the big reunion album, there was a 6-year gap from their previous album. And there was a 4-year gap between the self-titled reunion album and Gods and Monsters. So I didn't really know what it was going to sound like. Plus, I love Sasha Gerstner. I think he's a fantastic musician. He took the band from power metal into more traditional heavy metal, I think, because Sasha is not even a metal musician in his alternate bands. I think he's more industrial. I say that. I've never listened to it. I need to track that down. But my favorite Halloween albums are actually the power metal with Andee Darris and Roland Grappow. Ending up to The Dark Ride.
Oh, The Dark Ride is superb.
Oh, it's such a good album. This is, as you would expect, kind of a combination of all things heavy metal or of all things Halloween. And I like that they figured out a formula to combine all of these different elements because Kai Hansen has a very particular artistic vision. I think Michael Weikath has a much more kind of general heavy metal vision. And then Kiski and Dareth are very, very different as singers. And they present different material. And somehow they make all of that work on this album. And I think it's because they're not trying to make Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 4. When they did the update, the Keeper of the Seven Keys, The Legacy, I was not impressed by that album. And I love Keeper of the Seven Keys and Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 are in my pantheon of all-time great albums. But The Legacy, I was like, whatever. I could take it or leave it. This is just a collection of good songs. The singing on it's great. Andee Darris, just about every album he does, they'll throw in one kind of more simple song. It's not pop, but it's got hooks. And on this one, it's called Hand of God, where he's singing Right Before I Die, I See the Hand of God. It's simpler music, but it's so melodic and hooky, and it really drags me in. And this is just an album I enjoyed from start to finish. I desperately hope that they put out another one now, because I think they are in a really good place, and I would like to see this continue. I hope the fans support it. I hope ticket sales support it, because I know that they're on the road. And this ended up being my favorite of the year. Also, That's a badass album cover.
And it's a painting. It's not AI.
Yeah.
So there you go. Halloween, Giants and Monsters. That's my number one for the year. I wanted to have
Sweet.
something really cool and esoteric, but I love what I love. All right, let's do some honorable mentions.
Cool. First, this is how we all hear things differently, and I love Halloween. I like the last one way better than I like this one. This is one I played when it came out, and I didn't go back. But now that you both have praised it, I'm going to go back and revisit that. So, so just quickly, I have down Ring Van Mobius, which is a prog band I believe, out of Norway. It's unfortunately the last album, at least for now. They're breaking up. That's fantastic. Thought the new Garbage record was good. The new Alice Cooper was way better than it should have been for a band getting back together after 50 years. Excellent. I like the new Counting Crows, but I didn't put that on this list because half of it came out on an EP a couple years ago. The new Ghost, the new Hailstorm, fantastic as well. Two EPs that got my attention. An extreme metal band called Karak Angren. If this would have been a full length, it would have been on my top 5 list. And also, believe it or not, the new Youngblood and Aerosmith EP, I think is fantastic. The single they put off of that, Angel, is great. I went from being very skeptical of Youngblood to being a fan. And then 2 reissues, one the Jimi Hendrix Axis Bold as Love box set with tons of unreleased and alternate takes. Anything Hendrix is for me. And Prince Around the World in the Day, one of his most underrated albums. They put out a 3-album set that includes all of the B-sides and extended songs, including a 20-minute version of America, which is in my top 5 Prince songs of all time.
Wow.
All right,
Nice
Phil, you
list.
have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I'll just say 2 very quickly. One, to go back to a bit of eclectic kind of doomy occult stuff with female vocals again. The latest album by the Swedish band Avatarium. I'm sure you guys have heard of them. It's called Between You, God, the Devil, and the Dead. It's gorgeous. It's like, again, Black Sabbath or Masters of Reality met Jefferson Airplane and sprinkled with a lot of more like 70s vintage stuff. Beautiful. And the other one I'll choose is something totally different. I like my shred guitarists. I like my solo guitarists. I like my Satrianis, my Vais, hell, even Yngwie Malmsteen. But I think the most wild, experimental, like forward-thinking guitar player amongst this in this community is Bumblefoot, Ron Tal Bumblefoot. His latest album, I think, is called Returns. It's completely bonkers. He does some stuff in there that any guitar player will just, they will just have to wonder how the hell does he do this technique or how does he make this sound. He's got guest appearances by Guthrie Govan, Steve Vai. Great album, very lots of variety. If you're into the sort of shreddy Guitar Hero stuff, definitely check out Bumblefoot. It's loads of fun as well. It's a very funny album as well. So there you go.
Okay, Kevin, got any honorable mentions for us?
Yeah, I got a few. I almost had a 3-way tie for 5th. Giobia ex Aeon. They're a Italian instrumental kind of space rock kind of band.
Fantastic.
This one has a few heavy parts in it too. I think there's only 1 or 2 songs that have vocals, but really beautiful album, great production. Just something you want to sit down and really get immersed with. A band called Pesta out of Brazil called The Craft of Pain. They call themselves Doom, but I get actually it's a little more hard rock in parts, which is good, and great singer. Band called Century. I think they're out of Sweden. Sign of the Storm. Straight up new wave of British heavy metal. Could have came out in 1981. A band called Stone Nomads, Empires of Stone. I think they're a Texas band. Doom, real heavy, a lot of Sabbath. I note that one because there's a song on there. I call it, you don't hear a lot of Doom ballads. And there's a song on there that's almost a ballad, real vulnerable kind of vocals, and then crushing chorus that comes in with a big heavy riff. I like the New Testament album. I haven't spent enough time with it but every time I listen, it kind of creeps up my list.
Those
Good
blast
variety
beats,
on there.
man. Those blast beats are just too much
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, that's the part I have a problem with. I'm not big into extreme metal and black metal and stuff, and there's parts of that are on here, but I commend them for having this variety. There's some of their early 90s material on there too, and there's even a ballad on that one. I had the Geist Getting Killed album on my top 15. Waylon Jennings, his son, apparently found some tapes in the back closet somewhere and released a album of unreleased material. It's all from mid 70s to early 80s. Great stuff if you like Waylon Jennings. And after that, read your Rainbows Are Free album. I had that very near the bottom of my list. Sorry to say, I couldn't deal with the vocals of that guy. It's interesting, but I like the music, but not the vocals. It's one of those albums for me. And then another disappointment was I like Florence and the Machine. That new album, I really have a problem with the production. I don't know who is producing her albums these days. Her vocals are way up front. There's a lot of layers to the music, and it's kind of in the background. The artwork is always amazing. I bought two vinyl versions of it. The deluxe version, although it wasn't advertised, came on this stupid glow-in-the-dark vinyl that sounds like shit as well. Plus, they crammed on 4 more songs on the 2 slabs of vinyl, and everything's a little more compressed. I like her as an artist. I've seen her live. She's amazing. Something is not translating onto the actual music, though, as far as the production, because if she could capture what she does live on an album, it would be amazing. But I'm just the production's falling short. But
I
I
love
do
how
like
that album starts, and by the time it gets to the end, I'm
yeah.
out.
Yeah. It just kind of drones after a while. But it's not as good as her last album. I thought her last album was amazing. So,
all right, West Coast Dave, honorable mentions. You're muted, sir.
Sorry, some kids are playing around behind me. I got Dominic Sanderson. This album is a prog album. It's called Blazing Revelations. It's kind of sounds like Vandergraaf Generator a little bit. That was a good one. And you know what? My most played album of the year, although my stereo doesn't have a year wrap up on it, was probably Leonard Skinner, pronounced Leonard Skinner. God, I just played the shit out of that album this year. My most played album of the year, that was probably it. I just over and over, I was like, wow. First Leonard Skinner.
Freebird.
Yeah. It does have Freebird. It does. That's true.
Okay. All right. And guys, I'll tell you what, if you'll do me a favor, after we wrap up, if you'll go in on the Patreon and put your lists in on the the sign up roster, since there isn't another topic for this yet, and I can't create one. Because we've gone through a lot of bands, and this will give me this is selfish. This will give me a chance to see things written down. To check that one out. Because I'm old and I won't remember. All right, so some honorable mentions. I'm going to throw in Wino, Create or Die. So Wino is the mastermind of Obsessed, formerly St. Vitus, formerly Spirit Caravan. I'm always kind of curious when an artist who's basically already a solo performer comes out with a solo album, you go, well, what's going to be different about this? And what's different about this is absolutely something I did not expect, which is like American Depression era Americana, which,
wow.
I mean, the whole album's not that. Some of it is still kind of doomy, but there is some of that. And I have to say, I'm not into it. It doesn't quite do it for me, but I admire that he did it. And that he's, a broad enough artist to cover all of those spaces. But yeah, that the actual music doesn't quite do it for me, so it didn't make it into my top list. Also,
almost like his Johnny Cash album, and I listened to it a couple of times and liked it, but I'll never go back to it.
yeah. And I wish it were not that, but that's what it is. And I'm going to mention this artist every chance I get because he's one of us. Andee Blacksugar put out an album called, I don't know if that even is too much glare. Anyway, it's Chasing Little Sparks, a tribute to the Cars, where he just re-recorded a bunch of Cars songs, except he does all the vocals and instrumentation. Andy's an amazing musician, and he does a fantastic job on those. And Phil, if you've never checked out his instrumental things, he has a band called Sheer Velocity, where he does just instrumental stuff, and it's all brilliant.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Cool.
he's a contrarian, so any ears I can throw his way, more than deserved. And the one that it just kills me that I couldn't, that I bumped so that I could do the Led Zeppelin live EP is what on paper is just about my dream band, and that's Smith Kotzen. Adrian Smith and Richie Kotzen. Yeah. Those guys, what a chemistry that they have. Adrian has always been the most hard rock centric of the Iron Maiden guitarists. And Richie Kotzen is all over the map. He's kind of soulful. He's kind of R&B. He's kind of jazz fusion. They're both amazing players. They've got very different tonality. Richie plays with his finger and thumb, so he gets a very mellow, very legato sound, which I have no idea how he plays as fast as he does without using a pick. It's absolutely astounding. But I really like Adrian's voice. It's not nearly powerful is the wrong word. He's not nearly as soulful as Richie Kotzen is. They're very different vocalists, but I think he sounds great. And they produced a fantastic hard rock album. The only thing I don't like is the title, which is Black Light, White Noise. And I don't like it because it's too similar to David Bowie's Black Tie, White Noise.
Oops.
And they get confused in my head. But if you like hard rock, it's not metal at all, but it is just good old hard rock, check out Smith Kotzen. Both of those guys individually are fantastic. And for once, when you put them together, sometimes you make these super groups and they just don't work. But this produces really good music.
Excellent.
I was going to say something about that Led Zeppelin EP, Reed. That's got the best version of In My Time of Dying that you'll probably hear.
Yeah.
It's way better than the studio version. And those first two songs were taken from the Earl's Court concerts in 75.
Okay.
And I think they played 2 or 3 nights there. And they're 2.5, 3-hour shows. You can find them on YouTube. So they absolutely have all that material that they could release as a full live album, or just, pick the best songs. And I think the other two came from Nebworth in 79, and they have that too. So you're totally right. They could have released those or made a full length live instead of a silly EP, but
yeah,
we'll take it.
I said, I don't know what the deal with that is. Jimmy Page is very protective of his Led Zeppelin. Someone just wraps his arm around it and he just carries it with him wherever he goes.
And all that came out on a DVD in the early 2000s, just called Led Zeppelin, and there's live footage of those songs. That's exactly where that stuff came from. I think it says that on the EP too, but yeah.
Oh, does it really? Well,
yeah.
For once,
You should.
I may not have read my own liner notes. I need to do that. All right. Well, guys, this has been a great panel. There are at least half a dozen albums on here that I'm going to buy as soon as somebody reminds me what they are. I'll be on Bandcamp picking them up. So hopefully everybody has enjoyed watching this. Feel free to check out the Patreon, and we'd love to have you in on these panels if you've got something interesting to say about music. We're all just music fans. We enjoy talking about music. That's what we do. Thanks for spending a little time with us, and we'll see you real soon on The Contrarians. Thanks, guys. That was a blast.
Thank you.